Barbara Costa, your newspaper is spilling over with scoops today. This was the most stunning thing that I read when this popped up. Take me through the delay in these checks and the unconventional decision to put Trump's name on the stimulus checks.
It was a great scoop on my colleague, Lisa Ryan, who covers the federal government. And it's also part of a pattern. And you see it in the Post reporting day after day. President Trump personalizing the federal response to this pandemic. At every turn, he's talking about the stockpile in personal terms. He's kissing goodbye one of the Navy ships on his own before it takes a journey north. And so you see President Trump putting himself at the center, whether it's the news briefings or now these direct payments to Americans, embracing a stimulus package that a decade ago many Tea Party Republicans would have abhorred and fought against. Now President Trump, the leader of the Republican base, is saying, I'm going to put my name on it, claim it, and use this as a way to try to position himself for re-election after trying to maybe run on the economy.
You know, Bob Costa, we've had this conversation many times over 3 years about the lack of anyone in the White House to say, oh, I know why you might want to do that, but there are people who literally are going to food banks for the first time in their lives. We got to get this money out the door. Is there any suggestion that there was anybody who said anything like that to the president?
In fact, the Treasury Secretary, Steve Mnuchin, going back to the 2016 campaign, has always been seen as someone who enables President Trump to put himself at the center of any kind of economic debate. He's not someone trying to put up a wall with President Trump. And pay attention to what's happening today. President Trump having this running series of conference calls with business leaders, not setting up a task force on the economy in the way he had originally planned, now talking to CEOs and conservatives like Art Laffer and Steve Moore on the phone. This is back to 26th floor of Trump Tower, Donald Trump. This is a president who's running things on the phone, on the fly.
Kimberly Atkins, what could go wrong?
Well, listen, another point, aside from all of the points that Bob just made, is the point that it's an election year. And what this pandemic has done has taken Donald Trump off of the campaign trail. So in addition to speaking for more than an hour every day in a way that he used to speak at his rallies during these White House press briefings, he's looking to claim credit any place that he can. And that is seemingly what this is about. The president, as you correctly noted, has nothing to do with the disbursement of funds from the U.S. Treasury. He never has. He can't sign the checks. So it's just his name being printed on them that has absolutely no value added to the check, except for the political value it gives the president right now. It gives him something to brag about, something to claim credit, just as he assigns blame to others for other things, as you noted at the beginning of the show. So this is very political. I mean, recall when in the past, when stimulus checks went out during the Bush administration, the White House sought just to put in a note telling taxpayers that this is their money that they're getting back. And then the Treasury Department said no, because that would appear political. And it is purposeful that you have civil servants issuing disbursement checks from the Treasury, from the Social Security Administration, so that it seems non-political. This is the exact opposite of that.
You know, and I guess, Kim Atkins, my question to you is, you know, the question to all three of us for so much of the last 3 years is, you know, are we normalizing him too much? I mean, this is not, it is a normal instinct to want to get credit for doing something good. It is not normal to rewrite history from the Rose Garden of the White House every single day, to lie about what you did when China told the same thing to you that they told to the WHO, to attack medias, to call reporters' questions nasty, to rewrite the history of your own failures over 6 weeks, which cost American lives. I mean, so I guess it's a political effort to take victory, but it is also in the absence of any sort of leadership or responsibility being taken for where we find ourselves. That is what is so jarring to me.
It is definitely yet another, sorry.
Go ahead, Kim, and then Bob. Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, just think in the last week, we've seen the president of the United States stand at the White House and negate the 10th Amendment and claim absolute authority.
Right.
None of this is normal. None of this is anything that we've ever seen before. In some ways, you may think that putting a name in a memo line of a check is not that big a deal, but it is a big deal, particularly at a time. This is not a stimulus check. This is a check that's keeping Americans, making sure they have food in their mouths and a roof over their heads. And to delay that even for a moment in order to claim credit, it doesn't even seem proper. So I'm with you. It is not a normal moment, but nothing seems normal right now.
Bob
And
Costas.
I would never want to interrupt my good friend Kim Atkins. Just to build on her reporting right there, when you look at President Trump and putting his name on a check from the Department of the Treasury, it's important to note the obvious. It's not his money. This is U.S. taxpayer money.
Right.
And for him to put his name there, it's insinuating, his critics say, in both the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, that he's giving this money. And to your point, Nicole, to not normalize, it's not about normalizing. You got to give context. And I went to historian John Meacham for context, and I said, what's he really doing here? And Meacham said, President Trump is attempting to cast himself as a, quote, generous monarch and trying to have the idea that he's bestowing on the American people largesse. But it's not his largesse. It's the taxpayers' money.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.